Hello my art-loving friends! In today's video we are going to do Battle of the Cheap Paper. This is paper that you can find at Walmart. I have not been able to find it online except at Walmart online. And this is paper that you can find at Amazon. Both of these are wood pulp or cellulose paper if you want to call it that. And we are going to see which one is better. Hey, my name is Miranda. If you're new, welcome. And on this channel we do all kinds of watercolor stuff. Sometimes we get distracted by another fun art supply, but we have a good time regardless. Alright, you guys remember this cute little guy? So I am determined to finish my coloring book. And this is the paper I had originally chosen to print my coloring book on. However, I have seen some of my students use this paper in my watercolor classes that I teach at the college, and I'm a little concerned. So I saw Christy Rice's video about this paper being the best that she tested out of all the cellulose papers, and I will link that video in the corner if I can. If not, look for it down in the description box. And we'll see if it's really that much better. I'm really hoping not, because this paper is almost twice as expensive. You get 10 more sheets, however, but still twice as expensive, and it's not a 9x12. So this one was going to be cut in half, and it was perfect because my coloring book was going to be 6x9, and I can't do that with this one. I'd have to change all the layout, but we're still going to give it a try. So if I open up this paper here, I'm going to bring this color swatch in so the camera has something to focus on. But let me see, bring in some light on the subject. This has a very smooth texture, just slightly bumpy. It is somewhat irregular, so it doesn't look like machine textured, so it's nice. In other words, it's just very smooth. The GenCrafts, on the other hand, it has a very square texture. It does look kind of machine textured. It's not terrible, but it's noticeable. So I have taken one of my kitty coloring pages here, and I've just transferred it over to the B paper and the GenCrafts paper, and I am going to paint both scenes exactly the same using my Himimiya palette. So this is the one I'm still trying to use up for my Use It Up challenge. I'll link that for you because I have been doing a challenge about how long it takes to use up 18 half pans of watercolor paint, and it's forever. Let me just tell you that. It is forever. So we're working on it, and that's the paint I'm going to use for this. Alright, I want to start on the B paper. Let's just see how this goes. I decided that trying masking fluid on both of these would probably be a good idea too, and there were a couple of places that it was appropriate to use masking fluid, so I stuck that on off camera and let them dry before I started painting, obviously. And I have my big flat brush, and I'm bringing in some blues. It's basically, I think, like a cobalt blue with a Prussian blue with a little ultramarine. Actually, I didn't use the Prussian blue. I think it's a cobalt blue with the ultramarine that I'm using here, and I'm bringing in some of the greens. I am just guessing on the color names for this set because this set didn't come with any color names. One of you guys in my comments when I very first got this set found the color names for this set and put them in the comments. So I do need to go back and look at that. I am kind of curious. Pretty sure I know most of them, but it's fun to know the actual names. But this B paper, I'm just putting down the colors, and it's acting fairly predictably for me for cellulose paper. I do want to say that I am more comfortable on it than Canson XL paper, so there is a bonus there because I don't like Canson XL paper at all. You can see the texture. This is the GenCrafts paper. You can see that texture coming through even with just that coat of water, which is very interesting. I'm trying to use the same colors and as I'm painting I'm noticing that texture quite a bit, so it's interesting. That's all I'll say. You know, nothing bad, nothing good, just interesting. Lots of texture going on, and I think because of the lines in the texture, it's pulling some of the paint, the green paint, farther up into the sky. And I'm switching back to the B paper. I thought the sky was dry enough, but it was not. I've let this sit a while, and it is staying pretty wet being attached to this board. This board is also a little bit absorbent, so there is that. And then I did it off camera because I didn't even think about it, but I put that dark swatch of brown there and left that hard line, and I just went back just a second ago, a minute ago probably, and scrubbed at it, and it came right off. I have these little white dots on the paper. I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm just going to keep painting. I think it's dry enough not to bleed like the bleeding we have going already, but we'll see, and just experiment some more here. I'm pretty sure this is paper that can be erased, if you know what I mean, very easily. You can tell by the way it's going down on the paper, actually. It's pretty obvious. And then I dropped water right there, so that'll be fun to see what we can do with that. So yeah, look, you can just clean up that edge super easy. So I think if you know what you're doing with watercolor, it's going to be pretty easy paper to work with. I suspect, though, if you don't know what you're doing, it could be kind of challenging because you're going to pull up your previous brush strokes fairly easily compared to some other papers. But that's a good thing for a lot of people. See if I can get a more dark tone here. This particular paint color is a little bit scratchy to start with. Now if we go right over that dot, yeah, you can't even tell that it was there. Kind of cool. Get some more tree color in there, a little brighter burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is an interesting color. It's I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like Jello. Sometimes it's the way it goes down, and it's not just this brand. This is the Himimiya palette, as I told you in the beginning, I think. But several brands, this color goes down different. It's like, you'd almost define it as sticky or jelly-like. I don't know. It's interesting. Kitty first, probably. Now, the kitty, I think I've decided on the color I want him because I've painted him this color in my actual official sketchbook for this. So I think he's been decided. However, we do have these few areas where the green here has gone over. So I just have a little scrubber brush. Let's see how this paper does. Oh, yeah. It lifts beautifully. It's like there was never any color there. Don't even have to clean the brush as much as I do with cotton paper. Very forgiving paper. I'm not going to worry about lifting that green there because that is going to be a black area of the tire. As usual, scrubber is kind of pulling off a little bit of the paper, so you have to be careful. I just stuck my palm in the tree, but it's pretty par for the course. Do that all the time. Yeah, this lifts very easily. So very forgiving paper. So that's good. Let me fix that tree real quick. There we go, fixed. All right, kitty cat. And now we're on to painting the kitty cat. And I've pretty well decided on his color scheme. So I guess we're going with a mostly orange cat with some brown stripes. And I think he's adorable. This is one of my most favorite sketches ever in the entire series that I did. If you missed that series, I'll try and link my Inktober playlist up in the corner for you. So I do find with this Himimiya palette, the browns, the burnt sienna, the dark brown, and the black, and the white are quite hard to re-wet. And so is the ultramarine blue. The others seem to re-wet really easily. So I do find that interesting. I don't know if that's the case with some other paints as well, if the white's harder, if the black's harder. I don't have enough experience using those other colors to really say for sure. I do have trouble with the dark brown in some of my other palettes. That one I do know because I use dark brown all the time. So, I don't know, just food for thought. I think this Himimiya palette is super fun. I'm having a fun time trying to use it up, except I don't know if I'm going to still be alive when it's all gone. I don't know. I'm making a concentrated effort. I have for years trying to use it up. I think we started this in 2020, I think. Oh my goodness. Anyway, you can see this tire swing going in, and I had a nice easy blending time on the B paper, and then I do decide to take my Faber-Castell liners and do some outlines of him because I think he needs it. The whole piece needs it. You can see I had a little harder time with the tire blending on this paper. This is the GenCrafts paper. And now I pull the masking fluid off, and I was pleasantly surprised. It came off super easily on both papers, and guess what? That fly from the other video, he's back, or he's still around. And I found out that my 12-inch Westcott see-through ruler is a great fly swatter, by the way. So yeah, if you don't have a fly swatter handy, you can just pick up your handy dandy ruler and use it. And I finally stopped resisting and got out a rigger brush, which is just like a thin liner brush. And boy, is it handy. How come I have not used this before in my life? Because I'm lazy. But it's nice. All right, here they are, side by side. So the question is, because this one looks more vibrant and this is the GenCrafts, did I actually use a more vibrant mix of color, or is the color showing up more vibrant on this paper? I don't know the answer to that. I suspect maybe I used, like I can tell I definitely used more burnt sienna up there than I did over here. So maybe, I don't know. So this paper is easier to blend and erase. If you know what you're doing, you can erase really well. So this one was a little bit trickier. And when I was painting, this one is much harder to control than the bee papers. It depends on what you want. If you're actually interested in paper that is not cotton, because this paper, the GenCrafts, is super easy to write on. I went over the top with a liner, as you saw, and this one was way easier to write on than the bee paper. Also, the tape came off of this one much easier. Masking fluid was no problem for either one of them, but when I was painting on this one, it was just a much more pleasant experience. And I didn't have any of the problems I was seeing my students have in the class with this paper. So I think it was just their inexperience, I guess, with watercolor, because they were in my absolute beginner class and they had really bad watercolors. They did not buy the Daniel Smith that I required. They had, oh, whatever this stuff is you buy at Walmart. Anyway, it's horrible paint. I wouldn't recommend it. So I didn't have that trouble on this bee paper. So I think we're good sticking with the bee paper, which is good because it's half the price of the GenCrafts. I didn't like the texture I was seeing through this when I was painting. Now that it's dried, it looks fine. I mean, you can see where I got a little extra paint and stuff. You can see the texture on it, but I like it better now that it's dried. But when I was painting on it, I felt like the texture was fighting me a little bit, but oh, I love the vibrancy now that it's dry. It just kept the vibrancy of the paints, and that makes me really happy. So I'll definitely get the paper used up at some point, doing some project or another. But I think we are okay sticking with the bee paper for the coloring book. Like I've already said, I just am rehashing that in my brain. So the only thing is when I took the tape off the bee paper, the edges tried to tear. Not the paper paint edges, just the edges where the paper was cut. So where it wasn't cut, it was fine. So I think where I cut the paper, it's a little bit softer, these two edges, and it did try to lift that up. So be careful when you're taking tape off of the bee paper. All right, guys, that's a wrap. What did you think when you were watching me paint these? Did you have a preference? Did you have an idea of what I might say, one versus the other? I'm really curious. Let me know in the comments below. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video. Bye for now. So I've taken one of my kitty coloring pages here. Hang on. Why is it so dark? Did I actually use a more of a... Yeah. Where are you going? Don't sit down. Keep going. Go. Come on. Let's go. Duffy. Where's the Duffy? There he is. Hi, baby. Ah, incoming.